Hello and welcome to the Avocado Retreat. My name is Gene Jokins. Today I'm doing a review of the Neogeo Super Pocket by Hyper Megatech, which is part of Blaze and is a sister product to the Avocado. It's a small handheld that fits in your pocket. It takes Avocado cartridges and it comes with a bunch of pre-installed Neogeo arcade games. Well, I say a whole bunch. There's 14 of them, which isn't a bad number, but it pales in comparison to the 50 that the Atari collection had. But there is a bit of a difference in the games, so, Anyway, moving on. Well, not moving on. I'm doing this review in sections. This part of the review I'm actually preempting and doing before I've received the hardware, because I can't capture footage directly off the Super Pocket because, well, there's no screen capture facility and just filming myself playing it would be a bit crap. So that's what I'm doing here. So I'll go through the games and I'll just list them out and I'll share some thoughts as well. Those thoughts will of course be initial impressions. In the second part of the video, which will be one video, I will share maybe more in-depth thoughts on some of the games that I've played more fully. And I'll mention about how they perform and everything, because playing through less official forms of emulation, a couple of these games really didn't emulate very well. Although I do suspect that's purely down to the, how I'm playing them essentially, rather than the games themselves or how they'll perform on the Super Pocket or on the Evercade. So let's go through the games list. First up is Alpha Mission 2, a vertically scrolling sci-fi based shoot 'em up, which is very nice looking, has some decent sound and music, but does feel quite mediocre in terms of shoot 'em ups. I've only played the first level, so hopefully it does get better, but it just didn't seem particularly special on my first impression. I will note that there are many shoot 'em ups that really step things up after the first level, and that just could be where it becomes fun and interesting, so we'll see when I get the actual hardware. Next is Blazing Star, a horizontally scrolling shoot 'em up, which has a whole bunch of pre-rendered 3D style sprites. Has some really good presentation, although I did find the commentators always saying bonus and things like that really irritating. But yeah, it seems like a solid shoot 'em up. Not an out and out classic, no rival for our type, but yeah, it seems decent, and who knows, again, as I get further into the game, maybe it will really start to shine. Fatal Fury Special is a beat 'em up. It's Fatal Fury, and to be perfectly honest, when I first played Fatal Fury back in the day, which was like the Mega Drive or the Super Nintendo port of the first game and the second, I wasn't impressed, and it kind of tainted my view on Neogeo beat 'em ups. Playing this again now, and it reminds me of that. It's no Street Fighter 2, but it's okay, it's fine. King of the Monsters 2, The Next Thing. Now, that's a game that I remember seeing back in the day and I thought would be quite cool. I've never got to play it. Having played it, yeah, it looks quite cool. I don't really know what I'm doing when I'm playing this, and yeah, it's just a quick bash, and I wasn't overly impressed. But again, that could well be a me issue from not really knowing what I'm doing, so we shall see. Last Resort, another horizontally scrolling shoot 'em up. This one seems pretty decent, and it seems quite simple at first in some ways, but as I played, I did find a few things coming through, and I think this could be a really good game. But again, I haven't played enough yet to really know for sure. Metal Slug X. Now, this is, as I understand it, pretty much Metal Slug 2 with some tweaking or enhancements. And it's a Metal Slug game, and they're generally quality, and it seems no different. So, more Metal Slug, yay, cool. I mean, that's not sarcastic. Did it sound sarcastic? It's a positive. Metal Slug is good. This is a good one. It's good. Mutation Nation. This is a visually quite impressive looking side-scrolling beat 'em up, in the sense the way the enemies are very distinct and there's a bit of variation there. The gameplay does seem very, very basic as far as side-scrolling beat 'em ups go though, but I think I'll have some fun with it. Over Top is an isometric racing game, sort of in the style of World Rally Championship or Racing Fever. Yeah, it seems okay. Not really my jam as a kind of game, but it seems like it plays fun. It's well put together, so yeah, I think this will please a lot of people, but just not be my jam. Samurai Showdown 2. Now, I've heard this is supposed to be the best in the series, or was, I'm not sure. I've never really played the series that much. I have played ports of the original, and I've played some of the later ones, but I've never really taken to the series. That's not because I couldn't like them, I just haven't played them enough to really get into them, and I've generally stuck to them when I played them. But I had a bit of fun with this playthrough, so yeah, decent game, I'm sure. Sengoku 3. I've heard this is the best of the series, and I liked what I played of the first one, and what I played here, yeah, it was pretty good. And again, just the first level, the easiest difficulty, so I'm sure it gets better, but yeah, nice graphics, good presentation. There's definitely potential here to be a solid beat 'em up. Shock Troopers Second Squad. I'm really not sure what to think of this one. There's something about the styling, the sort of pre-rendered graphics, the way it's very much gone for Metal Slug but from a top-down view, and it just didn't really feel that good to play on my first impression. Yeah, I mean, it was okay, it played well, but I don't know, something didn't sit right with me on my initial play, but time will tell. Soccer Brawl. It's a football game, and the styling, the sort of futuristic styling, is really off-putting and not very appealing. Next. The Last Blade seems like a solid beat 'em up. This one really wasn't running well on the emulator I was playing it through. You might be able to see the frame rate is quite iffy. But the game itself does seem really good. I have played it briefly before as well, had the same performance issues. But yeah, I think it's going to be a solid beat 'em up. And finally, Top Hunter Roddy and Kathy. This is a side-scrolling platform beat 'em up type thing, where you can jump between lanes. You can jump into the background and foreground, and the gameplay is, or the game's level design is tailored around that. It might take a bit of getting used to. On my first go, I thought it seemed alright, but I wasn't really enjoying it. But again, I didn't play it enough for the gameplay and the controls to really sink in, so it's too early to say. So that's my first impressions prior to getting the hardware. Sort of a preview, if you like. But of course, I'm not actually going to release this until after the thing's out and I have played on it. So the next section will be my review of the hardware and see how this improvement to the D-pad blades I've mentioned really sits in, if it is that much better. I hope it is, because that was one of the weak points of the Taito Super Pocket, and it was fine for those games there, but playing other games from the Evercade library on it, some of them could be problematic. And I don't think it would be too great for beat 'em ups. So I will be back in a week or so when I've had a chance to play with the hardware and give it a good go to finish off my review. Of course, a week or so will go past in the passing of a sentence, because it's coming right now. And sure enough, a week or so has passed and I have received my Neogeo Super Pocket. So on the hardware, what I can say is I really like the look of the menus, the way it has the Neogeo colouring. I think that looks quite good, better than the sort of the blaze colouring that I have on the Taito Super Pocket. I can also confirm the D-pad is much improved. Playing Last Blade and Samurai Showdown, it works absolutely fine on those games. I've had no problems pulling off special moves with it, and on top of that I've put in some games which I knew were problematic, such as the Chaos Engine, and I didn't have the problems on that which I did on the Taito Super Pocket, namely when you push the D-pad down you end up pausing the game. All in all, I can say I'm quite happy with the hardware. It shares obviously the same problems as the other Super Pockets do, beyond the D-pad being improved. The screen size might be an issue for some people depending on your eyesight. The size, depending on the size of your hands, can lead to some cramping of the hands. Well, if you have big hands it might be a bit uncomfortable to play, or at least that's what I find. Fortunately, the pre-installed games do not use the L and R buttons, so the fact that they're not brilliantly placed isn't really an issue. So all in all, it's a solid piece of kit. And for £50 you can't go too far wrong. Well, unless you're me of course, because, well, embarrassingly, I managed to crack my screen on the very day I got it. This isn't a knock on the hardware or its durability, this is pure user error. I was making lunch not long after I'd gotten the Super Pocket, and I was having a bash while things were cooking. I turned it off and I put it on top of my sofa and forgot about it. Finished my lunch, sat down on the sofa, and with my weight going onto the sofa, bending the cushions, it fell off. It fell about a foot before it hit the coffee mug I had next to the sofa, where the screen struck the handle of the mug and put a crack in it. Fortunately it still works fine, it is just a crack which is more visible when the screen is off and barely noticeable when it's on. But yeah, well, it's one of those things, and it is entirely user error. But it is funny to think that my Taito Super Pocket, which I've dropped on concrete from greater height, still doesn't have a scratch on it. But again, it's just how things land when they fall. but for me it was something of a facepalm moment. So my original plan was to spend more time with the games before doing this review, and I have done with some of the games so far, but it could take a while because there's quite a few of them. But so far my favourite picks are Blazing Star, Samurai Showdown 2, The Last Blade and Metal Slug X. There is a good collection of games here, nice and varied, but I do very much hope that most of these games do end up on Neogeo collections before too long, either because they have multiplayer functionality or they would just play better on a larger screen in my opinion, but that's not a knock on the hardware or their inclusion upon it. Overall, I think you've got a pretty good idea of what I think of this hardware. It's a very decent small handheld, and the improvement to the D-pad is very welcome, although I don't believe anyone really needs more than one Super Pocket unless you want to collect them all or there are specific games that you want on them. Now, Blaze have said that all future Super Pockets, even if they are of older editions, will have the improved D-pad, assuming you don't order one and get some old stock. Now, I can only rate the Super Pockets I've got, which is this one and the Taito edition, and I think overall the selection of games that the Neogeo Super Pocket offers is a bit more my jam than the Taito ones. That's maybe a little bit too elimination platform based for my liking, but again, it's all personal taste. And as for the others, I mean, there's reasons I haven't bought them. Although the Atari one is quite tempting, I really don't need a third Super Pocket. Anyway, as you can tell, the Neogeo Super Pocket gets a thumbs up from me, and you will start seeing the games included upon it appear in my Ranking Every Evercade Game List Ever series of videos. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.